In 2021, I did a video on Kodak AEROCOLOR, an aerial film made by Kodak, which was very hard to get my hands on because at the time I could only source it from camera stores in Russia. AEROCOLOR is meant originally for air surveillance, along with a variety of other uses according to Kodak. It's a 125 ISO color negative film that is slightly unique in that it lacks the orange base of regular color negative film stocks. Instead, it has a clear base, which makes it a little bit different to scan and get good colors with sometimes. My experience was that it can be super orange when scanned on certain lab scanners, or much cooler if you go through a camera scanning setup and invert the film using something like Negative Lab Pro. It's really that clear base that throws things off a bit when scanning, because a lot of things are set up and calibrated to work with those orange-based color negative films. At the time, I was a little unclear as to whether this was still in production or not, based on just whatever I could find online, but apparently it is. Earlier this year, the team behind SantaRay 1000, a high ISO black and white film, ran an Indiegogo campaign for SantaColor 100, a new-ish color film that they were sourcing from an air surveillance film made by a major manufacturer in the USA, which is Kodak AEROCOLOR. I like this because they're very clear about what it is, so nobody has to guess about it, and their breakdown about what is involved in getting it out to people and why it isn't normally widely available is very interesting. The thinness of the film makes it difficult for normal machinery involved with spooling it for 35mm rolls, and the minimum order is so high that it would be enough for 15,000 rolls of film. I've already done a video on AEROCOLOR, so I'm not interested in doing another one just on how this film looks, because it's the same, whether it's SantaColor, AEROCOLOR, or some other rebranding of it. But I wanted to revisit this because the SantaColor people were kind enough to send me along a couple rolls, so I wanted to shoot it in a way that is different from how I originally did. You can cross-process this stuff as color reversal, and the results are kind of okay. Because AEROCOLOR has a clear base to it, you can develop it in E6 chemicals like you would do with slide film such as Ektachrome, and you get a color positive image. I shot this first roll of SantaColor right at box speed of 100 ISO without a filter, and had it developed by a lab as E6, and the results are interesting. It's very, very blue if you just do it straight like this, and it doesn't make for great slides necessarily, but it is super flexible. In comparison to regular color reversal film, SantaColor doesn't have high saturation or contrast at all. So it's odd to look at this film because it's quite different from what you expect to see with slides. I don't love these results with how blue they are, but it's really cool to see how well it does cross-process. It's kind of similar to the blue cast you get if you shoot tungsten balanced color film outside under daylight without filtering it. So I shot a second roll using an orange 85 filter on my lens and had it cross-processed again. This time, I ended up with much warmer results that aren't perfect, but I think are a big improvement over shooting it unfiltered. The color here is definitely more realistic against the blue cast I had on the first roll, but it still maintains that lower contrast look, which makes it a really interesting thing to experiment with for E6 processing. If you're going to shoot this film for reversal processing, then I would recommend using a warming filter of some kind when shooting for best results. I think the 85 is maybe just too warm, so something a little less orange would probably bring you closer to an appropriate balance. Slide film is crazy expensive right now, especially if we're talking about the Fuji, Provi, and Velvia stuff, which you can't even really find a lot of the places anyway. So AEROCOLOR is definitely an interesting alternative to working with that stuff. It is way less contrasty and saturated than normal color reversal film, which is sometimes why people like to shoot it, but you can develop it as a positive so that you can project it, which is another reason why a lot of people like to shoot color reversal film. SantaColor's Indiegogo campaign also mentions that this stuff push processes really well to a higher ISO in chemical developing. So I'm really interested to see people maybe explore push processing and cross processing it. There hasn't been a 400 ISO slide film around in a real long time, and I mean, this isn't it technically, but there's some potential here to play around with this because it's an interesting film stock. And I do want to mention that SantaColor aren't the only people that are taking AEROCOLOR and making it more widely available for people to shoot. Since they ran their Kickstarter earlier this year, a number of other sources for this have popped up. The other two that I'm currently aware of just at the moment are Electra 100 from Flickfilm and Luminaire 100 from Popho Camera Company. Unfortunately, people are only selling it in 35mm at the moment, so I'm not sure how likely it will be to see it in medium format at some point. I know in the past though, some people have put it out in 120 rolls, but I haven't seen any recent mentions of that being available. The clear base of this film does make it somewhat unique, and especially if you're interested in shooting color reversal film or learning to color reversal develop at home using chemical kits, then AEROCOLOR is probably a good place to start because the stakes are pretty low, I think, for it, and you can experiment to see if you can get a good positive result that you like. I think it's a fine color negative film if you have it developed as a negative, but I think it's a really interesting color reversal film, and I'm excited to see what people do with that. Thank you so much for checking this out. Thank you to the SantaColor people who sent me some of this stuff early. I will throw links to stuff in the description down below for where you can source this stuff. SantaColor, Flickfilm, Popho Camera Company, any of that stuff for being able to pick up AEROCOLOR. There's also links for ways to support the channel through some merch, through some Patreon. I've been a little less active over the last few months, but I'm now balancing this out with a job as well in the arts community here in Toronto. But I want to continue doing this stuff, and there's a lot of bigger stuff in the future that I'm hoping to be able to tackle slowly as I figure out how to turn certain things into videos that I'm happy with. So thank you so much for watching. Happy holidays if this is the last video of the year, maybe one more, I don't know. I'll see you soon.